Okay, so let's move to Europe in the 1960s then. Let's do that.
Yes, we are talking now about Je t'aime, je t'aime. This is a film by Alain Renaud, who we spoke about in our, or at least his first two films in our Left Bank episode back in May 2016. How time flies, and incidentally, somewhere between this episode and our next marks our 3-year anniversary. So hooray for us! And
We're
also,
old.
yes, I was going to say it closes in on almost 11 years of us podcasting and longer doing text reviews on websites. When you include our previous form in the oneliner.com, so I am going to book myself in for a hip replacement to beat the rush.
Yeah, I'm going to Dignitas.
So anyway, skipping 2 films in 7 years from last year at Marienbad brings us to Je t'aime, je t'aime, wherein Claude Ritchie's Claude Ritter leaves hospital after an unsuccessful suicide attempt. Obviously, if he left after a successful suicide attempt, it'd be a very different genre we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. He's approached by a representative of a presumably secret organisation to take part in a time travel experiment as a guinea pig, presumably because he's already shown something of a disregard for his own life. Still, it worked with mice, or at least a mouse, for a minute, so it's probably ready for prime time, right? So, Claude is led to a country estate where, after some general, largely dispensable exposition, he enters what I'll call the time egg, and the switch is thrown with the intent of moving him in time by 1 minute. It doesn't work, at least not as intended. Alain goes on a magical mystery tour throughout his relationship with his chronically ill, seemingly clinically depressed girlfriend Olga George Picot's Katrine, flying through his memories on shuffle play with a dizzying succession of edits that's as disorientating for the audience as it must be for Claude. Through the course of an hour or so, we uncover a picture, fuzzy as it is, of Claude's life and the decisions that led to him attempting to kill himself. Now, your mileage will vary, of course, and like Marienbad, it's sophistication through obfuscation rather than any genuinely challenging narrative, but it turns out that I continue to be a complete sucker for Renee's Strikes. It's got some solid character work in it, and its narrative is presented in an interesting way. It'd be remiss of me to point out that the actual narrative, when defragmented, isn't all that complex, or the final reveal of what drove Claude to desperation wasn't really all that affecting. Sad for him and his girlfriend, of course, and for us if you want him, but it wasn't in a powerful emotional gut punch or anything that I think it was hoping to be. Certainly the way it was presented, it was, I think, intended to be a bit more impactful than it actually wound up being. Also, I suppose on reflection, this is a time travel film in the loosest sense only, and it's really just it's really just a mechanism for a fractured narrative that these days would probably just be presented fait accompli. Does that mean it's here under false pretenses? Well, it was either this or Time Cop, so count your blessings. It's easy to sound a little bit dismissive of this, but I quite enjoyed this. Not as much as something like last year at Marienbad, and I think we have very different opinions on that. So for me, this film was good, but not great. It sort of edged towards it on occasions, and I found the narrative and the fracturing of it quite engaging in a way that normally annoys me. This is a trick that's been tried in a number of films after this, and I've found most of them annoying. This one, not so much, I think, because it is so discordant. It's trying. It's not quite Brechtian, but it's certainly trying to put you on edge with a lot of the way a lot of its editing, a lot of its tricks, and a lot of its cuts. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to diminish it, but it's a gimmick of a film, but I think it's a gimmick that worked pretty well. Now, if I recall correctly, we don't really see eye to eye on this Renault guy, so yeah. Do you have any contradicting opinions?
First of all, I would like to say that I was thinking a lot about last year at Marienbad through this, and to be honest, I can't really remember what I thought about that film. I remember that I said I didn't like it, but I don't remember why. And I can picture the film quite clearly. I can, if at least it's a series of still images. Mm-hmm. But I honestly don't really remember how I felt about it anymore. I do remember thinking, yes, this does feel like it does owe something to the French New Wave. I mean, it's a bit more conventional than a lot of those films were. Not in narrative style or editing, but in other ways. And certainly there's some really dodgy dubbing going on, at least in the early stages.
Yeah.
As opposed to on-set audio. But I was thinking, at least it's not Breathless.
Yes. Yes.
A film where we do see eye to eye because it's terrible. It's strange. It's a shining example of the French New Wave, but it's an appalling film, appallingly made, but okay, with an appalling person in it. This is, I don't know. I honestly don't know whether I like this or don't like it. And I've been thinking about it since I saw it. Certainly, I very much agree with you, Scott, that it's a stretch to call it a time travel film.
Yeah.
That it's not really... It didn't go where I thought it was going to go when it began like that. It is... I don't know, I mean, the whole film's made in the editing.
Yeah.
And the editing is really, really good. Because you can... While it's like, you know, it's jumping from time to time and like different things are happening each time, you can follow it absolutely, and it could have been so easy to just make a complete mess of that.
Yeah.
So the editing is really good.
While at the same time being enough of a mess to get, you know what I mean? It's very deliberate in what it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange because it's absolutely not a time travel film. It's basically someone reliving their memories.
Yeah.
It's more like a dream than a time travel film.
Yes.
But again, I mean, I found my attention wandering every now and then, but I certainly don't think I was bored by it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was slightly mystified by it. I was certainly mystified by Claude Doriche's character, because, like, how many women does he have? And could you please explain to me, the audience member, how he's able to obtain all of these women when there doesn't seem to have an awful lot of personality? But yeah, it's interesting. I was like, okay, yeah, right. I just found myself engaged enough, like, okay, can we cut to the bit that's going to... Oh no, please come on, cut to the bit that explain. No, explain, tell me. I was hooked in that way that I wanted to just understand what the cause of this was. And certainly it wasn't an emotional gut punch. You're right, Scott. Mm-hmm. Whether they intended for that to be or not, I don't know. It was just a tragic accident. But
I just... given the timing of the reel and where it was, it kind of felt like it was sort of trying to build towards something to give you to some kind of go-home moment. It didn't really. It was just another moment in a series of them.
And I think, to be honest, by that point, I was completely distracted by the fact that it was supposedly happening in Glasgow.
Yes.
And then there's there's two scenes with police officers. The first one is the scene is in English, but it's clearly Belgian or French. It's listed on IMDb as a French film, but it's shot in Belgium. Mm-hmm. So I'm not quite sure which it is. But yeah, there's the first scene with the police, and it's in English, but it's heavily accented English. And then you find out shortly after that this is meant to be in Glasgow, and right, okay. And then the second police scene later on, it's like, they're not even trying, they're just speaking in French now. But they've forgotten to even try, because they tried an English accent in the earlier scene, and then they've forgotten by the time they come around to shoot the second scene, I guess. But and to us, I was more distracted by that than what was actually happening at that point. It's like, because to be honest, I mean, I like Glasgow a lot, and I like a lot of people from Glasgow, but they're talking about having gone on a presumably romantic holiday to Glasgow in the 1960s, and I'm, really? really? No, yeah, but 1960s, okay. Right, okay.
Come, see our poverty and pollution.
I mean, I guess all that the sunshine and the French beaches will get to you after a while, and drizzle will sort you out. But I can see this film testing people's patience a lot.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not for everyone. I enjoyed it more than and I don't really strongly remember my feelings now, but I remember enjoying... I can't speak. Enjoyed this more than I remember enjoying last year at Marienbad. But this film's actually made me want to go back and revisit that to see if I appreciate it more on a second viewing. I feel like I've rambled on an awful lot without saying anything of consequence. It's a hard film to talk about, though, because it's kind of basically a person's fractured memories and sort of trying to explain what went wrong in his life, but I'm not convinced it actually does that.
I mean, it's such a deliberate muddle. If you'd watched this and said, I hate this film, I wouldn't really have any counter-argument for it, because it's, as you say, it is more like a dream. It's like someone explaining their dream to you, which is not normally something that most people would like to hear, but in this instance, for me, it sort of works. But I could quite easily have had the other reaction, and we're trying to think of other films that have done something similar more recently, like Babel or something like that, where it's attempted sort of roughly similar sort of fractured narratives and trying to combine things in strange ways, and it just has fallen flat on its face. It's not the most direct comparison, but there's some thematic, I guess, similarity there. But I've seen a number of these films where they try to weave something similar from its context that hasn't worked in the slightest, and I've absolutely loathed. But this one I just didn't. I quite enjoyed it, and I don't really have any good backups for that opinion other than this is just how I felt. So if you feel the way I feel, then
if you are also Scott,
yes,
you will find this film rewarding.
Well, always do these podcasts with a target audience in mind, and the target audience is me. So I think this has been incredibly helpful.
This is the only film in this podcast that I wouldn't recommend. At the same time, though, I wouldn't necessarily warn anybody off of it. I think there's enough here of interest for certain people to get something from this. It's very much not one for everybody, though. Apparently, this has been regarded as an influence on Michel Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
And I can see that in some ways. Although, curiously, and maybe I'm just completely misremembering this film because I've not seen it since it came out in the cinema, but it actually made me think more of Gondry's The Science of Sleep. Parts of it, anyway. Parts of the feeling of it. Yeah,
that makes sense as well.
But again, I've not seen The Science, despite having owned the DVD, obviously, because that's what I do. I buy the films and I don't watch them because I'm not weird. I've not seen The Science of Sleep since it came out in the cinema, but it made me think of that quite a bit. Less horses, of course, but yeah, I don't like it, but I also don't not like it. You could ask me in 2 different days and I could probably give you a very different answer about whether or not I like this.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the fact that I feel like that and we can talk about it in that way suggests maybe it's worth watching. I really don't know what to make of this film.
And isn't that the greatest gift of all?
No, Scott, the greatest gift of all would be my own aircraft carrier. Or super yacht. Really, you need more imagination.
All right, I'll get it on your Christmas list.